Hello student, I hope you are preparing well for your EIS subject. Welcome to JKSHA classes. Today we are going to solve RTP for your favorite subject EIS for May 2020 which institute has given right now. Now the first question comes to everyone is sir why we need to solve the RTP? Why we are giving so much priority before entering into the examination hall to RTP? The reason is very simple people. If you can check RTP of May 2018, Institute has asked one question in chapter number 4, diagrammatic representation of a e-commerce transactions. Same question they asked in May 18 examination also for 8 marks. Similarly, in November RTP also they asked the certain question and the same question becomes the part of your actual question paper. One more example I'll give. Institute has asked mobile computing, limitations of mobile computing, one more question in the RTP. In the same examination year, May 19, they asked the same question in paper for 8 marks. So RTP generally you can presume that certain questions from the RTP is taken by the institute in your actual question paper. So I would request everyone to thoroughly solve all RTP of previous exams. Before exams all RTPs which is given by institute must be solved so that it will help you to score well. Further, let's try to understand this time institute has introduced something called as a case study based questions will be asked. So institute has given one case study based question also for our knowledge purpose so that we can easily understand what kind of question institute may going to ask in our paper and we can prepare for the same. Let's try to see the first question now. If you see the first question, it's appear as a theory one. Let's try to understand this in a very easy manner. Let me read. A cooperative society in a Ghaziabad decided to open bank named ABC with its 2 branches located in Noida, Uttar Pradesh. The branches of the banks are proposed to be connected to each other and all the processing and transactions being computerized with centralized database. Further, to avoid any manual work and they proceed with the advanced technology. At the same time, to enhance the functionality within the branch, all the computer system within all the department in each branch would have connection oriented network. Now when I am asking you the connection oriented network, you will understand they are connected in such a manner that they can share the resources easily. The bank proposed to abide by all regulations and compliances prevailing in India with respect to banking sector. Now, the very important thing we have to understand from this much content that they are something talking about the chapter number 5 CBS based case study. Also, they had introduced the certain words like connection oriented and something which would be the part of our chapter number 3. So, I hope it's very clear to you people that first whenever the case study appears in front of us, we should realize that from which chapter the case study is there or is there is the existence of 2 chapters combination they had taken or not. Further, they had also given us Mr. A is appointed as an IT head. Okay, they are very clear with this. It is appointed as an IT head to carry out the feasibility study whether this can be done in a proper manner or not, or whether there are certain situations which we need to take care of not, like feasibility study of the proposed system and submit the report to the top management of the cooperative society. After the report is submitted to the top management, the following issues are raised by the management. Now management is having the certain issues. Let's talk about the same thing what they have. First one, there may be a conflict of some common resources in a network. Now very important people, conflict for the common resources in the network. Whenever this word appears, we know that whenever the network is wants to get it combined and they are having the fight for the some common resources, so we can call it as what? Conflicts. let's take the very simple example. Suppose my mobile phone is on, it is connected with a hotspot connectivity with some another device, as well as Wi-Fi connection of that location is also connected. So now whenever my phone enters into that location, over there the one Wi-Fi connection is also available for my device, and also one more connection, that is a hotspot connection, is also available. Now my phone will get automatically a little bit confused that which network to accept and which networks to reject. Combination of this situation, that which one to accept and which one to reject, this is called as fight for the common resources. Same time, I'll give you one more example. Like in network we cannot take, but in a simple sense, like database bases also, when we already have the one same file available in the folder and we copy the same another file with the same name, I mean to say, in the folder immediately gives a one pop-up on the screen informing that the same file exists. Would you like to change the name or would you like to replace the file? That is called as what? Contention. That is called as what? Contention. Contention means the fight for the common resources. Second thing, since the centrally located data is centrally located, why? Because they had proposed to maintain everything central database system. It may create the possibility of access to non-relevant data by another department. It means what? It is a situation like any person may get the over access or extra access than actually required for a job. We should always consider that access to the system should be available to all the people according to their job profile. Further, generally I can say in a very simple word, we should apply the role based access control. According to the role, the access to the person should be given. Junior manager, access would be limited. To senior manager, little bit extra access to the system should be given. Top management have the complete access to the entire database management system. Like this, the access differs. Next one. What would happen if the employee intentionally destroy or alters the information residing in any computer or any branch? Means here they are talking about the some legal remedies also. Okay, is there is any legal remedy solution is available if any person intentionally destroy or delete any data or alters any data, makes any unauthorized changes in the database or anything. And last one, the network security related issues between the both the branches of the bank, that whether our network would be secured or not. This is a simple case study. Refer the case study one more time before we solve the next question. Now, let's try to understand. Institute has given the certain MCQs based on the above case study. First question, in purview of the above case, under which legal provision of IT Act 2000 Amendment 2008 cover up, the management can prove an employee guilty if she or he intentionally destroy or alters the information residing in computer resources of a branch. So people, if you had studied the chapter number 5 thoroughly, you will come to know that there is a one section it's provided in chapter number 5 only, called as section 43, which covers the computer related offences, in which we have the section 43, probable the subsection 2 exactly, that indicates if any person intentionally destroy, delete or alters any data residing in computer database or in a computer resources, then such person would be found to be of guilty and punished accordingly. So this offence is covered under section 43. Remember one more thing, the offence which covers under section 43 is punishable under section 66. So the punishment for the all offences which is listed out under section 43 becomes punishable under 66. Let me consider the other sections also, so it will help you to recall the other part of. Like section 65, it talks about source code. When intentionally source code is changed or alters or destroys or delete, under which you will be punished for such offence under section 65. Then when I am talking about the section 66E, so we have the quick recall revision of all section 66 subsection 66 sections. With that, what are the punishments are there? So first one, as I informed you, section 66, it is the punishment for all offences, punishment for all offences covered under section 43. First thing is cleared. Now next comes section 66B. Now you should remember the one small code word for this, B for buying, to buy, purchase. So if you buy any device, any electronic device or anything which is stolen property, which is a stolen property, okay, so which is a stolen property, and if you still buy that property, then if you will be caught, you will be punished under section 66B. So easy way to remember section 66B is what? Buying any electronic devices where you are clearly having knowledge. First thing, it's very clear, you already have the knowledge that it is the stolen property. Then moving to the next one called as section 66C. Now for here I'll use the one Hindi word for section 66C to remember. I'll say chori karna. Now what this word chori karna represents? It represents very simple thing, that to identity theft. It is called as what? Identity theft. So if I am doing the intentionally, taking the someone's user ID password, or intentionally copying that password pin or something which makes me to take easy the identity of another person and to get it entered into the anyone's system, then it would be punishable offense under section 66C. Then one more thing I would like to cover here, I'll cover up, okay, section 66D. Now D refers to duplication. Simple word to remember is what? Duplication. Now simple words, section 66D refers to what? I said duplication. When I am doing the anyone's, means I'm creating the one impersonation identity. If I am creating any fake account on any other person's and creating the some duplicate identity, then I would be punished under section 66D. That is called as the cheating by impersonation, creating the fake profiles and kind of. And last one, it comes to section 66E, that I defined E as a extreme privacy. I'll say what? Extreme privacy. Now if any person takes the picture of your body parts, private body parts, without your permission, then it is also offensible under section 66E. The simple example if I'll give, generally the spy cameras in trial rooms. So let's try to summarize the everything, because along with this you got the quick revision of the one more thing, that section 66, punishment for all offences covered under section 43, 66B, buying the stolen property, 66C, chori karna, identity theft, 66D, duplication, impersonation, section 66E, extreme privacy. So all this thing is covered. Am I very clear to you? But here in this question they ask intentionally destroy or alters the information. So obviously these three sections are not applicable, which we had already studied right now. So it will come to 43. Clear people? Okay. Moving to the second question. Second question, please concentrate. Which of the following control shall be implemented in both the branches of ABC Bank to suppress the risk of possibility of access to non-relevant data by other department? Simple words, they are talking about the very simple thing they had asked people, that suppose if I don't want to allow the user or the employee to access the non-relevant data which he does not require for his job, I won't allow him to get the access, or I won't allow her to get the access of the such data. Example is very simple. If he is a cashier, then he should talk about the account and he should only talk about the payment. He should not know about the credit card status of the others. Simple. So they had given the certain points. Let's check out the multiple options what they said. Proper training to the user with well documented manuals. This will not be that much effective, because they know what they should do, but still they can get the access from the system. Okay. Second, clearly define of change control procedures and holding the everyone to them? Maybe, but not the correct one, because the reason is very simple. Clearly defining the change control, that means the job rotations and other things we are talking about, as well as if anything goes wrong we will help everyone to them, that everyone has done. No, this is not the correct option. Third one, the backup arrangement needs to be strong, but this will to provide me data in case of what? In case of what? If my entire system gets delete or system gets attacked from the hackers or others, in such case the backup will be the most important element. But if I allow the access to every person, which very carefully I am going to decide only on the basis of need to know or need to do basis, that means I am talking about the RBAC, role based access control, then definitely this would be the exact method by which we can stop the people from accessing to the non-relevant data. So only the person from that department can see the data, but other department person can't see the data of another department. Means you will be given with access. For access there is a no problem, but access would be only which is related to your job, which is related to your requirements. Clear, people? Okay. Let's try to see the third MCQ. The feature of internet banking through ABC Bank's website allow ease and convenience to its customer. That's a great thing. Which of the following is not the limitation of internet banking? Now they are talking about what? If we are using the internet banking, then what would be the one thing that would not be a difficult or will not be a limitation? So it is difficult, they give the option difficult for the non-technical person. Obviously it's one of the limitation. Why? Because the people, those who do not be so good with the technology, generally they find it out little bit uncomfortable or unease while using the technology of net banking and all. Second, risk of data theft. Obviously there we had seen previous year in the 2019 only, the Cosmos Bank case was there where the hackers hacked the database and they took away the certain cash out of it. That was one very important case study is there. Third one, written records not to be maintained. Now see this, people, when we are doing the cash based transaction, we have to remember the each and every transaction. Do you agree with me? Yes or no? But when I am doing the net banking payments, so I do not require to remember anything, because my statement will automatically reflect to whom I had made the payments or from whom I had received the money also. So it is very important aspects and it's an advantage. So it's not a limitation, obviously the correct answer one. And overspending, let's discuss this point also. Why? The reason is very simple. Earlier there was not easy availability of the so called as transfer, money transfer. So the people not used to spend everywhere, but nowadays to share with you one simple example. Suppose you want to do the party shadi. Earlier we used to go to bank, we used to withdraw the cash and then celebrating the party shadi of anything, of your first salary or anything. But nowadays we are having the debit card or something, credit card also we are using. Also we are having the mobile wallets nowadays. So we can just scan the QR code and make the payment. We do not require to visit to the branch, and that means next day moving to the branch, withdrawing the cash will not be the priority. We can spend right now. Very clear, people? Okay. Let's move to the fourth question now. Till 3 everything is clear. Fourth one. Now the top management of the cooperative society raised the concern. They raised the concern of what? Issue over the some network related or some common resources in the network, maybe fight with each other. Okay. Select the terminology referring the above concern. So they ask you the what we will generally call it as when the two common resources fight with each other. Then it is purely, we know that, people, it is called as a contention. It is called as what, people? Contention. So sir, what do you mean by the resilience? Resilience refers to recover from any kind of network error. Recover from any kind of network error. Bandwidth refers to what, people? Speed of data transmission. Routing, route, you can say that, or the way of transferring data. So people, along with the RTP, my main concern is what? Some other concepts should also get clear so that we will be able to easily recall during our exam time. Last question to go for, come on. Then we'll come to the descriptive type of questions. In both the branches of ABC, all fixed assets acquisition will be recorded as the control objective related to certain risk. Now it's very simple. This says that a fixed assets acquisition means buying a fixed asset is there, yes or no, will be recorded as a control objective related to the certain risk. There are the certain risk we have. Under which category this control objectives falls? Very simple question. Now this is something we are going to chapter number 1. Now see what they had done. This one they had asked from chapter number 1. This resiliency and this one they had asked from chapter number 3. This thing they had covered from the chapter number 4, C4. Need to access control chapter 3, and this one from chapter number 5. Means directly indirectly they covered the general concept of all. You can also say that this is available with the chapter number 2 also. In chapter number 2 we have the role based access control, by which the same thing can be easily understood. So from all the chapter they had raised the question. Now let's talk about this chapter number 1. What they said, people, we have the fixed assets acquisition. Do you agree with me? Yes or no? Agree? Okay. Recorded as the control objective related to the certain risk. So certain risk are there which is related to the fixed assets recording. Which category it will? Configuration of general ledger? No, because it's not related to the general in nature. They are very specific with the fixed assets only. Transaction fixed assets, master fixed assets, and transaction general ledger. So not of these two. They ask for the fixed assets what? Acquisition. Now acquisition is what? Buying. It will purely fall under the transaction of fixed assets. Am I very clear to you? That's it. So these are the 5 basic objectives, case study based questions we had covered. Now we'll see the descriptive type of questions. Okay. So the next topic, people, is our descriptive question. We had already seen the question related to what? Case study base. Now we are going for a descriptive type questions. So first, let's see the question from chapter number 1. Though the human resource department plays a very important role in the development of enterprise, of any enterprise gets easily developed when they have the best human resources, obviously, for sure. Yet it has a certain types of risk associated at the every stage of its life cycle. Question is asked to you, describe all the risk which is related to human resource department. Now all the risk which is related to what? Human resource department. So here we will consider the 3 types of risk we had learned. There is a risk at the configuration level, risk at the master level, and risk at the transaction level. But we know that in human resource management section we do not have the generally transaction related risk, but there are the risk which categorize into 2 category: configuration level risk and the master. Now we do not write it down this separately because they says very simple word, describe all the risk which is related to human resource. So we will write it down the entire answer in a combined form only. So first of all, let me tell you about the human resource management. We know it is one of the very important department in the organization. The growth, survival, success of any organization is highly dependent upon the skilled labor that organization have. If organization is supported with the best human resource people, best human resource and the good management, definitely the chances of the success of those organization is bright. But here we are going to talk about what? Certain risk. This risk is purely related with only and only human resource management. Now, let's take the very simple example. If suppose any person who has been appointed in the organization, and if I'll give that person an access to a non-relevant data, it means like the person is having the access above his job profile. So it is one of the risk where there is a chances unauthorized access, there is a chances of the access to the non-relevant data. Second thing, if any employee who left the company, but if I still give him or her continuous access to my system, and if I'm not discontinuing from my database to those people, or if I'm not discontinuing their login IDs and the passwords from my system, then there is a great chances that they can log in into the system and they can take away the data. Same way, when I am creating the master data, so first thing we should know that our employee master should provide valid data of all employees. If any new employees are added in our organization, then they must become the part of the employee payroll master also, that is the HRM related data also. Second, that payroll related data, that is employee related data, must represent all the employee in a perfect manner. If any employee who is left the organization, then his data must be immediately removed. Third thing, if there is any changes is there in the employee master, then such changes must be performed within the specific time limit. Fourth one, people, whenever the employee is been appointed, we should also know that if he is getting the access to any system, his access should be always kept up to his job profile only. Then one more thing, people, that any changes which we are making should be the valid changes, should be performed within the time limit, and employee master's access we should not give. Employee master data is there now, that access should be given only to the one employee we known as a DBA generally. Only that person will access the data. Other people should not be provided with access to the employee master, otherwise there is a chances of same thing, data leakage, or maybe it known with the other word called as overflow of data. Very clear? Let's try to see the theoretical answer for the same, which is provided with the institute. Now, when I am saying let's try to understand the answer, see this, people, the answer is very simple. It is there in front of us. Number one, as I discussed, employee who have left the company, they should, if they have the continuation to the system access, then it's a risk. Number two, if the access is given, access to the system is given in excess of their job requirement, that means access to the non-relevant data. Then any addition which is made in payroll master file, they do not represent the valid employee, means we had added the fake employees data so that we can show the fake expenses. If new people are genuinely appointed but still they are not the part of payroll master file, then again it is a risk, obviously payment related issues and all. Terminated employees, those who have been terminated, okay, if they are not removed from the payroll master file, then there is a great chances that we can make the payment sometime by mistakenly to them. Again, it is a financial loss to the company, as well as it shows the inefficiency from the HRM department that they had not removed the people as and when they left the company. Then when the next point is there, the employees are terminated without any statutory without following the statutory requirement. Now what is without following the statutory requirement? When we appoint the employee, obviously we follow the certain laws. A company has a certain policy, okay. So if at the same time, if you terminate the employee, make sure that all legal consequences are there that must be properly followed, or it must be taken care for, and if there is any legal procedure is there for the same, we should follow the entire procedure. Further, deletion from the payroll master file do not represents the valid termination, means the wrong people has been deleted. Agree? Next, invalid changes are made to payroll master file. Now what are the invalid changes? Example, we change the name of the employee, we change his designation, we change its basic salaries or others, we change any attributes which is related to employee related data. Then whatever the changes we had made, suppose they are also not accurate, changes are there, that is understood. Now I had informed to my HRM team, DBA, that please make the such changes from this to this. What he had performed the changes, but he had performed the changes in an inaccurate manner. Again, it will indicate what? Risk. Then whenever I am saying the changes, that changes must be initiated within the specific time limit. But if it is not processed in that time manner, again it is a indication of risk. Records are not up to date, again it is a risk. payroll, salary, payment, wages, whatever we are doing, that is disbursed to an inappropriate employee. To inappropriate employee refers to what? Those employees which are not the part of my organization, or they are not allowed to receive that salary. So payroll is disbursed to the inappropriate employees. And last one, system access to process employee master changes. If employee master data is changed, it has to be restricted. It has to be restricted to authorized user. But if it is not, then again it is one of the risk in HRM process. Am I very clear to all? So let's have the quick recall of the same thing. Number one, those who have left the office, still they are having continuation to the system, configuration related risk. People are getting the excess data availability with them, or they can access the extra data which they should not. Again, it is a risk. Employees master do not represent the valid employees. Again, it is a risk. Then new employees are not added still into the database. It's a risk. Terminated employees have not been removed. Again, it is a risk. Deletion from the payroll master file do not represents the valid termination. One more thing, that employees are terminated without following the statutory provisions or statutory policy which the company had made. Further, there is any invalid changes has been made. Changes are not proposed in the timely manner. All changes which we had done are not correct. There are certain inaccurate changes has been made. So this all indicates what? There is a certain types of human resource related risk exist. Am I very clear to all? Now, moving to the second concept, people. Second risk. I mean to say the second question, it is related to the risk. Now, what is the second question from the chapter number 1? In an organization, effective risk management involves identification of high level of risk exposures and their analysis. Obviously, we have the risk management team only for the same, and make us available with a understanding of the future risk. They allow us to easily understand identifying all the risks so that we can take the risk mitigation factors. Now, discuss all risk management strategies, out of which the senior management of organization may choose to adopt any of the risk management strategy based on the analysis of the risk. So now, on the basis of the risk, they are asking what? Okay, please tell us the strategy, which strategy to be followed. Now, before going to the answer of this question, before answering this question, let me try to understand first of all the strategies of risk management. To fight with any risk, we require a proper plan, because we know, in a very simple words, failure to plan is actually plan to fail. So if I want to apply any strategy, if I want to fight with anything, then obviously first I should see what kind of risk my organization is facing. If the risk, generally sometimes the risk is so small that we do not even require to respond that risk. So what we do, we generally accept that type of risk in our organization. It's okay, that's not a big risk, we'll accept it. That much risk we have to accept. Okay, and obviously, but we'll continuously monitor that such risk should not grow beyond to the limit. It should always remain at the low level only. When we follow the such type of strategy of accepting the risk, it is our first strategy, that is tolerate or accept the risk. What this says, people, there are certain risks, they are so minor, in management considered as a so minor that their impact or the probability of occurrence is very low. But as I said, people, even if it is a risk is small, risk is risk. So we need to consistently monitor such risk. Sir, can you give us one example? Okay, let's take the example, employees. When employees are appointed, people, there is a chances that the employees, those who do not fit with our organization's criteria, generally they left the organization. Now for such type of risk, you should be always ready. That is a generally acceptable risk, but it is not as one of the very big risk unless and until that human resource manager or human resource that the person, employee, is holding the some very important key position in my organization. Second thing, people, terminate or eliminate the risk. See this is a very important here, people. I know there is a risk. So to fight with the risk, the best thing is what? the best thing it's only one. Eliminate the risk. Do not take the such risk only. Example, let's try to understand. Suppose this is my IT environment office. So there is a great chances, okay, there is a great chances that the loss will be there, fire broke out. But if I am doing the certain, taking the measures, very robust policy I am following over here in my IT room, then definitely I am taking the utmost that step which helps me to eliminate the risk. Now, risk is generally related with the three: technology, suppliers and vendor. If I want to eliminate the technology risk, then obviously I'll not use the low quality product, but I'll always go for the best product, as well as I'll make the certain level standard below which we will never go. I mean to say, the certain set of principles, policies, procedures will draft, and we'll follow that policy, procedure and practices while adopting the technology. And always choose the more capable suppliers and vendors, those who are ready to provide the 24/7 services, and thereby you will automatically eliminate the risk. So first one, accept the risk. Second one, eliminate the risk. Number three, people, many times it happens, like we are not that much capable to manage the risk because we are more busy with our actual job of what main core activities. At that time, we can do one thing, that we can share or we can transfer our risk to more mature management. Sir, what do you mean by the more mature management reference over here? Outsourcing people. Let's take the very simple example. Suppose if I will make my own data center, then definitely it's a biggest risk. Risk related to hackers, security services availability, then IT personnel and everything to manage, 24/7 electricity, cooling facility, so many expenses and other things has to be managed, and still I am not knowing what kind of new risk may my organization going to follow or going to face, I mean to say, okay, in future. At that time, one thing will help you a lot, that is what, you should transfer your risk to the agency, those who are more capable to handle that risk in an effective manner. Example, having or your own data center will always be a risk. So better take the data services or data center services from Amazon Web Services. You can take it from the GoDaddy. These people are more capable because that is their primary activity of what, managing the data center. So you will be completely free from any kind of risk because you had already outsourced your entire infrastructure to them. Okay, please provide me the services and manage my all IT resources in the efficient manner. So that's the third thing called as what, people? Transfer or share the risks. Quick recall. Number one, accept the risk. They are very small. We can easily accept it. Or obviously, we know one more thing with this, that we should consistently monitor. Second thing, eliminate the risk. Do not purchase those things by which we invite the risk. Do not purchase the low quality technology equipments and all. Third one, transfer or share the risk. That means give your risk to the more mature, more capable agencies, those who can handle such risk in a very effective and efficient manner. So three strategies are already learned. We are going for the now fourth strategy, people. That is called as a mitigate the risk. Now what is a mitigate the risk? So obviously we know that there is a certain risk, and we can only do one thing with such risk, is we can minimize. Example, it's the same example I would like to explain you over here, people. Suppose this is my computer data room, okay. If I am allowing the access to every employee now, then there is a chances of the data loss is extremely high. But if I'll give the people, only limited people access, plus those who are accessing, that is purely accessing on the basis of role based access control. So automatically I had followed the certain suitable controls. I had devised the certain policy system by which my data can be easily protected. So this is risk minimization. Agree? And last but not the least, there are the certain risk, people, where the risk or impact is very low. Means that risk doesn't affect you at all. Then such time the management may also decide completely to ignore the risk. So total we had learned the 5 strategy, people. Number one, first one, let's quick recall, accept. Small level and continuous monitoring will be done. Second thing, eliminate the risk, divide, not divide also, I'll say that eliminate completely, remove that risk from your organization only by following the certain set of perfect purchase from best IT suppliers, the resources. Second, make the proper policies and procedures. Third, transfer or share the risk. Obviously, we can take the insurance also, one of the very good example for the share the risk, because at least my financial risk will get covered. Fourth one, mitigate or treat the risk as you can, and so that you can easily implement a certain set of policies or the controls which will help you to easily fight with the risk or minimize its impact. And last one, turn back. When the occurrence is very low, probability or the impact is very low, then you can easily ignore the risk to a higher level. This is chapter number 1, 2 questions they had asked us. Let's see the chapter number 2 now. Yes people, chapter number 2 now. In chapter number 2, they says, discuss the different ways in which the database administrator can store the data of ABC Enterprise implementing accounting information system. Now this is what people, different ways where by which we can store the data. Now to store the data, we know generally our database gets categorized into the two parts when it is the accounting information system. Okay, let's try to figure it out the same. Like accounting information system, we categorize the data on the two conditions or on the two types basically. These two types includes which one? Number one, we call it as a master data, and second one we call it as a non-master data. Now what is the general difference between the word master data and non-master data? Master data is a permanent data and not expected to change again and again. I hope you are understanding the same thing, that master data is remaining permanent for a given period of time. Example, suppose if I am regularly purchasing the goods from Mr. Raj, then Mr. Raj account will be a permanent part of my accounting system because regular entries I have to make while I am purchasing the goods on a credit basis from Mr. Raj. Same way people, whenever I want to pay the employee, whenever I am keeping the employees, okay, in my organization, so we have the certain employees master data in which we again maintain the records of employees and all. We know the tax, generally GST and all for that also. So there is a certain data which is not expected to change again and again or so frequently, I mean to say. That record is always from the part of which data? Master data. But when I am purchasing the goods from anyone, not required that we purchase only on the one fixed day. Generally, we ordered as and when the goods are required. So when a purchase entry is there, but the date will not going to remain the fix, as well as the amount is not going to remain the fix. So let's take a very simple example to understand this concept. We'll take the example salary paid to Mr. Ram. Now what would be the journal entry for this? So obviously we'll take the date as a 2nd of February 2020. Okay, salary paid. So I'll make the entry as what? Salary account debit to bank. Say for example 30,000. Now try to understand people. In this, salary expense is a continual expense, yes or no? I'll make it as a permanent account. My bank details, bank account will also remain what? Permanent part. So this both the record will be represent which record? Master. But in this case, the date and the amount, that is not going to remain the fix every time. So salary will remain the fix. No, depend upon the attendance also. So in such scenario, this 2 will represent the non-master data, whereas the salary account and bank account represents the master. So I hope it's clear to you people that in accounting information system, we maintain the generally two types of data. One is a master data and second one is a non-master data. The data which is permanent, not expected to change again and again, master data. The data which is remain fixed for a given period of time, master data. This is not required to be typed by the user because it is already created. So we have to select from the available database, and exactly opposite to which is what? Non-master data. Expected to change again and again. It is not a fixed in the memory concept, and thereby user has to every time enter the data into the system and it cannot be selected from the available database. Very clear to you? Now, moving back to the question, they said what type of data we are going to maintain. So first I will explain you the master data and non-master data. Let's see certain types of master data. Now we are going to discuss about what people? Certain types of master data. There are basically we maintain 4 types of master data people. First one is accounting master data. First one is called as which one? Accounting master data. Now in accounts people we create the money ledgers, yes or no? Yes. Example like capital account, bills receivable, bills payable. Then we have the general ledgers accounts including the expenses related all ledgers, income related all ledgers and all. So that would be a permanent part of the database and thereby it will come under the accounting master. Examples: asset, you can write it on the plant and machinery, furniture, fixtures, building and all. Then again for the liabilities, bank loan is also there. Then we'll talk about the profit and loss account and certain expenses, income received by selling the any other product and kind of means income from the what we say like dividend received or non-operating income, basically we can say that. So for all this we have to prepare the certain ledgers and that ledger is going to remain the permanent part for the organization, comes under the accounting master data. Second, if the company is a trading company or a manufacturing, then obviously they have to maintain the certain level of inventory also. So inventory related master data will also be there. Example, suppose let's take the example of inventory related data. Any trading company, let's take Britannia, Parle. So for them the different types of biscuits and other things are available. They are nowadays coming into the namkeen section also, so that will also be available. So product stock item will be there, stock group will be there. They have to maintain the godown where they can keep the inventory. Unit of measurements will be there. This all will be formed as which part of people? Permanent data? Inventory related permanent data. That is the inventory masters. Now third one would be like our statutory master data. Statutory master data. When we are talking about the statutory master data people, it refers to clearly the tax related as well as law related aspects. Simple word, GST can be the best example. We deduct the TDS, yes, tax deducted at source. The percentage is going to remain the fixed for a given period of time. It may change, I am not denying the fact, but yes, it's not so frequently. Not everyday basis this percentage is getting changed and thereby this will form our statutory master data. Fourth is our payroll master data. Which one people? Payroll master data. Now what do you mean by the payroll? So payroll refers to salary, wages to all employees and everything. So if I am paying the salary and wages, then employees data like employee's name, his designation, under which head I am paying the salary to him. About like example Dionys allowances, then there is a like we have the basic salary, traveling allowances is also given. Okay, so these are the head which is going to remain the permanent. So we have basically how many types of permanent record? 4. Can you please repeat? Number 1, accounting data. Number 2, inventory related data. Number 3, statutory, that is legal and law related provisional data. And fourth one, provisions related data. And the fourth one is a payroll data. Am I very clear to all? So when it comes to non-master data, obviously I had explained to you people which is not a permanent part of your database, which keeps on changing again and again. It's called as non-master data. So this is what the question which they had asked, and we had also answered them very clearly. Like discuss the different way in which the database administrator can store the data. So storage can be done in a 2 manner. Number 1, certain data is a master data and certain data would be non-master. Master will have the 4 categories. One more time to repeat in a very quick manner people. Number 1, accounting. Number 2, inventory. Number 3, statutory. Number 4, payroll related data. Very clear to you people? Okay. Now let's see the next question. But before going to the next question, I would like to tell to the people, try to understand people. In May 2020, Institute has come up with a certain amendment. Certain amendments refers to what? The certain changes has been done. They had added the certain concept. If you refer the any module which is before of May 2020 exams, then definitely in that ERP based risk was given, but it was the one general risk covered. General risk. But in May 2020, Institute come up with a specific types of risk. They bifurcate the risk into 5 categories when we are implementing the ERP software. Like example, people related risk, process related risk, technology related risk, implementation related risk, and post implementation related risk. So I would advise to all those students, those who had either appeared exams before May 20, so they have the old modules but they are unable to clear at that time, or they had only given the one group and now they are giving the second group. So I would request you to please go through with the amendments. All amendment lectures are also posted on the JKSC official channel on the YouTube. So you can follow there also. You can see the all changes has been covered over there. We had loaded the videos with the, we had uploaded the videos with the chapter wise over there. So it will help you to easily understand the concepts. Further, let's see the question. Now, ERP implementation is the difficult task of the organization which is in the process of implementation. ERP should keep abreast of all latest technology development. Means we should always keep ourselves up to date, extremely perfect knowledge about the changes which is happening in the ERP based implementation. Now the question they asked described the different risk which is associated with the technology while implementing the ERP. So we have to cover only the which risk? Technology related risk. So you have to be very careful and very specific what the question is asking from you people. As I said, whenever we are talking about the ERP softwares, so in case of implementation of ERP, we have majorly 5 types of risk. Number 1, as I said, that there is a people related risk. Second, we had also seen there is a process related risk. Third one, there is a technology related risk people we have. Fourth one, risk which is related to implementation. And fifth one, which is a risk related to the post implementation. Post implementation risk. So altogether we are having how many types of risk in ERP softwares? 5 types of risk. But in our question, they talked specifically about the which risk? Technology risk. Which risk? Technology risk. So let's try to figure it out, the technology related risk now. Now, in case of people technology related risk, the first risk we have in ERP based software is called as a software functionality. Which risk we have people? Software functionality. Now software functionality refers to what? Nowadays company is giving the software with an intention to cater the full market demand. Means consumer may need, may not need, but will provide the full software in a such a manner that many functions are loaded into the single software. But when I am talking about the ERP implementation and especially technology, I need only those features. I'll keep on in my software only those features which I need for my business purpose. Agree that software is coming with a many features. Example, let's take the very simple one. Everyone is using the WhatsApp, yes or no? WhatsApp application comes with a one feature that you can keep the read recipient off. Now this is the additional feature, this is the one feature available. What was the main purpose of this WhatsApp? It's to communication, for exchanging of documents, images, videos, chit chat, and to share the certain communication concepts. We use what? WhatsApp. But when WhatsApp is coming, they are coming with the additional features like you would like to show the profile pic to all or not. You would like to show the status timeline of your to everyone or not, or you want to specifically target the one. Further, we'll take the example, it's like read recipient. Now suppose if I don't want that others should come to know that whether I had read that text or not, so I'll keep the read recipient off. Coming with the many features, but which features to accept and which features to deny will be purely my job, will be purely my decision. Sir, commercial example also. This is one personal example which I had given. Now commercial example, let's see. Now suppose Tally software is coming with the feature of you can maintain the obviously the priority, the basic for which the software is purchased is accounting record. You can also keep the inventory related data. You can also keep the manufacturing related data. Now suppose If it is coming with a 3 feature, okay, that means you can keep on the feature which you want, and you can keep off the feature which you don't want to use. Let's take the example. Suppose there is a Mr. Ram who is doing the business of BMW. You know BMW? Balaji Masala Wafers. So now he is doing what? Business of trading. Trading of what? Balaji Masala Wafers. Then he has to keep the accounting record, obviously yes. But he is doing which business? Trading business. So in case of trading business, he will also keep on the feature of inventory. But he does not require which feature? Manufacturing. So he can close down the same. He will not use it. Second, take the example of Mr. Sham. Now Mr. Sham is doing the business which is related to manufacturing. So in case of manufacturing, he needs accounting, yes. He needs inventory related aspects, yes. He is doing the manufacturing, so manufacturing related aspects of work in progress and others also he needs. So he will keep that feature on. But let's take you people, your example. Suppose you all people, chartered accountant, in fill in the blanks, please write your name. Okay. Now you are chartered accountant, you are practicing chartered accountant. In such scenario, people, there is, service industry does not have any inventory related aspect, does not have any manufacturing related aspects. So we need only accounting aspects. So what do you mean by this software functionality? Software is coming with a many features, but we should keep only those features on which is needed. Generally only for the benefit we are keeping the all features on, just like the option is available, so let's keep on, may sometimes confuse the data operator and the data entry person to enter the data, and that will lead to some incorrect entry of the data. So the first risk we have technology related is what? Software functionality, limited features to keep on, and to keep on further features also as and when needed. Till the time not needed in the business, please make sure that you will only use the requisite or required functions. First risk which we had seen, people, is a software functionality. Now we are moving for the second one, that is called as a technological obsolescence. Now technology obsolescence refers to what, people? That with every day the new technology is coming in the market, and that makes my company's ERP software old. Means generally the new version is coming, so existing version will become the old version. But on the other side, we can also say that if I am taking from the one good organization the software, then they will automatically provide me a continual support of upgradation so easily. Third one, we have the issue, that is the enhancement and upgrades. Obviously there is not only the changes in the software, but certain time rules and regulation gets changed, certain time the business requirements gets changed, sometime market demand gets changed. So we want a enhanced and updated software that is available only when we are buying from the best company. Generally when we buy from the one small people, like small company, or the small partnership firm, or there is a small people like available called software engineers, they prepare the software for you. If you take from them, many times they do not provide the enhancement and upgrade features. Let's take the very simple example for this to understand. Suppose on the 1st January 2017, company has purchased the one licensed version of Tally. But we know 1st July 2017, Indian government come with a GST. So now what? I am already having the software, but I want upgradation with GST module. So my company should provide me the updates. If the such updates and enhancements are not available, then it is one more risk. And last one is a very interesting one, application portfolio management. Application portfolio management simply refers to number of applications which you are using. Now many times it happens like for every business activity we are using the different applications, and it generally makes the task difficult. Say this process is focused on the selection of the new business application and the projects that required delivering them. Now what is the risk over here? Let me take it very simple example to understand this concept. One personal level example I'll give. Like for me, booking the cab, I'm using which? Ola and Uber. For flight tickets, GoIbibo. For bus booking, we have redbus.in. For movie tickets, we have the BMS, Book My Show. For recharge and all, we have the Paytm. Now what I had done, to do all these separate activities, I had taken the separate applications. But if I can get all the features into the one application, then I should always prefer what? The single application with all the functionality. That will actually reduces the number of application which the organization should buy, maintain and manage. That's chapter number 2, RTP base question of this one. Technology related ERP comes to an end. Now we'll see in chapter number 3 what questions they had asked. In chapter number 3, the first question they had asked is, Mr. A is a system administrator of the company who must ensure the protection of operating system. The very clear word they said, he should protect what? Operating system. Protection of operating system used in the information system of the company. How can he do so, or how can this purpose be achieved? So what they had asked, they ask us how to protect the operating system access. Okay, so let's have a look for the same. We know people, in chapter number 3, we have something called as a logical access control. In logical access control, the topic operating system access control is covered. Topic operating system access control. Now let's take the very simple concept to understand that operating system refers to what? The operating system refers to any system which helps the organization to run its hardware and software's combination, and that's called operating system. Example like Windows, DOS. This is basically, we can say that it is a most important component of the system, without which the system will not be operate only. So anything which helps the system to operate, hardware and software to operate, we require the first thing, it's what? Operating system. Now how to protect this operating system? So we'll take the one simple example. Okay, we'll say first thing, terminal logon procedure. You know people, it's one of the very simple thing, terminal logon procedure. Now example if I want to give, let's take the very simple example. Suppose I have one device with me, I'll show you the device. Okay, now suppose I have a device. When I start this device, it will immediately going to ask to me, enter the passcodes. That means what? The entire operating system is protected, that no one can use this system without entering the password, and that's called what? Terminal logon procedure. Unauthorized access can't be done. So first thing, it's what? Terminal logon procedure. The user must be the genuine. His user identification, that is user ID and password, must be matched with the available database in the system. If matching, then only access will be granted, otherwise access will be denied. Second, access control list. Now what do you mean by the access control list, people? A list of authorized people who are allowed to enter into the system. Now generally when you are using your personal computer, you are having the two things over there. First thing is what? Admin account, and second is a guest account. But apart from guest account, you can make the any other person's account also. Then if anybody is trying to gain the access from other person's user ID or password, won't be available. First thing, the terminal logon procedure, that is a main window to open. Access control list refers to what? The access to the system can be limited by giving the certain commands to the system. So system will not allow that person to use the data beyond to the accessible rights. Number 3, we have access token, or we can say the token access also. Now what do you mean by the token access? Whenever you are entering your user ID and password, the system will record who enters at what time, which applications you have access, what data changes you had done, whether you had used the internet connection to update any applications or not. It means maintaining the entire log. Okay, so first thing we have, it's a terminal logon procedure. Second is the access control list. Third one is the access token. Fourth one is called as terminal timeout. Called as what? Terminal timeout. Now what do you mean by the terminal timeout? Suppose if I had started with the operating system, I was doing the certain job, and for several minutes I am remaining inactive on that operating system. So in order to not to disclose the data in my absence to others, system will automatically gets log out. System will takes me in the function of logout. It means again if I will use that system, I need to enter and authenticate myself one more time before using that operating system, and that's called terminal timeout. Terminal timeout, we can also say that the person will be automatically log off after the several minutes of remaining inactive. Then we have the one thing called as connection timeout. Now, what do you mean by connection timeout, people? That the access to the system we can restrict with a time limit also. That only between this time the system can be accessed and then cannot. Sir, can we have the one example for this? Okay, for terminal timeout, I'll give the example of GST website. If you log in on the GST websites and remain inactive for at most 2 minutes, then automatically you will be logged out from the system. For connection timeout, the best example we have, it's a stock exchange. You know, people, in stock exchange, we cannot buy the securities before 9:30, as well as we cannot sell the securities after 3:30. It means the access to the system is available only between the stipulated time, only on the working days and only on the working hours. Okay, and that's what connection timeout. So we have the 5 major things by which we can operate, we can protect our operating system access control. Number 1, terminal logon procedure, user ID password, access control list, the list of people, those who are allowed with the access, and also what kind of access is given to them. Access token, it's a temporary access is given to them. They all records, all entries will be recorded in the system, and that records can be easily viewed what changes we had done. Terminal timeout and connection timeout. Several minutes of inactivity on the screen throws you directly on the home page to you one more time and ask you to re-log in. It's called as terminal timeout. And also there is a connection timeout which indicates that the system access will be available only during the official hours and only during the official days. So now we are going for the next question, people. Next question says database management system provides a facility to create and maintain the organized database. We know that the DBMS is only utilized for maintaining the best database in a perfect manner, so that we can add, we can delete, or we can optimize this database for the various purpose. Okay, then utilize the same. Various advantages of database management system which are used in the organization. This is explain the advantages. Now, what are the advantages of this database management system, people? So, when I am using the database management system, the first benefit which I am going to receive is what? It will help me to share the data with the other organizations well. Second thing, if I want to minimize any data redundancy. What is redundancy? Duplicacy of the data. Many times entering the same data again and again. But if I am entering the database system management, if I am entering the data in a database management system, automatically it will help me to prevent data redundancy. Means again and again the same entry will not be required to be done. Third most important benefit is like when we are managing the database management system, we can set the certain parameters by which the data will be accepted from the user. So it will also help us to prevent from getting incorrect data from the user, and that is the same thing over here, people. It ensures the data integrity, that correct data is available to the correct management to take the correct decision. because invalid data it does not accept only. So first one which we had seen, it's a permission of the data sharing, we can easily share the data. Second one, it minimize or it reduces the data redundancy, duplicate data we do not require to enter. Okay. Third thing, it will help us to maintain the data integrity, that the correctness of the data will be all time available. Then fourth one, people, nowadays most of the database management systems, softwares which we are using like MySQL, MS Access and others, they are very user friendly. It means it requires only like a training of a very short span of time, and you can become the master in the same software operating, and you can manage good amount of data with a less efforts. And that is one more advantage of database management system. Okay, management systems comes with a user friendly behavior which helps the user to understand the data system in the best manner. One more thing, this database management system, people, softwares like MySQL and MS Access or the by others one, when we create the database in it, it also gives me the one more facility. It's to maintain the confidentiality. Sir, what reference with the confidentiality? They are coming with the improved securities like limited access to anyone. Second thing, complete access, non-access to the non-relevant person because it is already password protected. So unless and until the user is not entering the password, he won't be able to access the data. So this all are the benefits, people, available of the database management system. Not only this, but suppose if I want to develop any application, okay, example like in Mumbai, we are using one most important application called as a M indicator. This AM indicator is covering the entire charts of the railway timetables and all. This is possible to develop only because when we have the database management system, and this database management system help us to faster development of application. So if anybody asks you, okay, what are the benefits of database management system? Number one, we can easily state that it permits the data sharing, minimize the data redundancy, duplicate data do not require to be entered. Correctness and accuracy of the data will be maintained because it's an integrated one. It is a very user friendly, coming with the improved securities of password protection and others, so that the only individuals, those who are authorized to access the database, can use that database. And last but not the least, it comes with a one more additional benefit, that it allows us to make the faster development of the applications. Done, people? Okay. Now, people, we have chapter number 4. The question they asked is, DEF is a car battery manufacturing company which intends to provide an online business to its customer, that customers can online buy the car batteries and all, or they can provide the services also. What are the various components that are involved in the e-commerce transaction? So they are asking about what? Components. Let's try to see the components of e-commerce. Now, components of e-commerce, okay, we are talking about the components of e-commerce. Components of e-commerce, people, is generally categorized into 5 aspects or 6 aspects, you can say that. Okay. Number one, we have the user. Like consumers are there. Anybody who is using the e-commerce organization, e-commerce structure is called as what? User. It may be individual, maybe the organization. Certain product may be purchased by the individual, certain products may be purchased by the organization. The company which are coming to do the business over the internet, they are also called as the users only, because they are using the e-commerce platform to buy and sell the product and services. Second thing, people, we have it's a e-commerce vendors. Second one, we have it's a e-commerce vendors. Example like web designer, product display people, those who are creating the website for us, they prepare the catalog and product display. There are the supply chain management and suppliers are there, those who supplies the product to the end user. They people will help me to deliver the product exactly as and when it is demanded in the market. Third, it's like people, those who are providing the certain offers and all. Generally they are, we call it those people as the people, those who are doing the marketing and loyalty programs they keep. We also have the category of the peoples like the return policy, how they can return. Then we can give them the various methods of purchase like online also and offline also. Best example, Lenskart. So this all people comes as the e-commerce vendors. Those who are basically the people, those who supports the e-commerce by buying and selling the product and services, but these people only provide the services. Example, I'll write it down. Number one, e-commerce and e-commerce product display, and catalog. You can say that the best example I can say the web designer. Second one, we have the supplier and supply chain management. We also have the customer loyalty, you can say the customer loyalty suppliers are there. Those who provide, example, I'll give you the cashback offers and all. We also have the people's like product return. For returns also, there is a certain peoples are there. Then one more, there is a different order methods we have. These people, e-commerce vendors, they provide all these facilities in order to make the e-commerce transaction to be completed with effectiveness and efficiency. After e-commerce vendors people, the third one we have, it's a technology component. Now technological component refers to what? Basically, here we are going to talk more about the technology. Like e-commerce cannot be even imagined without the computer, server. First thing, computer servers. Second, we cannot imagine the e-commerce nowadays without mobile application. We want mobile application to be all time updated one and the perfect one, because nowadays people do not prefer the website a lot, but they preferred to directly targeting the consumers by giving them the mobile app in their mobile phone itself. Third one, we also have something called as a digital libraries, where the content is stored in a digital form. This digital library separately, the question was asked in the May 18 examination. And make sure that the digital library does not mean only the applications or website where readable content is there. Digital library refers to any digital platform where content in digital form is stored. Example like YouTube, videos are there, it's a digital library. Gaana, songs are there, again it's a digital library. Your mobile phone itself is what? All documents and everything which is scanned form available to you. It's one of the example of digital library. One more thing people, like whenever I am booking, cab or anything, and whenever the person is providing me the services and all, so we generally have the sum called as data interchange. Called as what? Data interchange. It is called as EDI, electronic data interchange. Example, you people you or me, if we book the Ola cab or Uber cab, the method of the operating will remain the same, and then when the driver's detail is shared with us or our detail is shared with the driver, the structure, the format in which the data is shared will always remain the fixed. That is called as the electronic data interchange. Next one people, in technology aspects only we can consider the internet connection also. So we cannot imagine the business without internet. It is also one of the very important aspects in the e-commerce components, because internet, it's one of the basic requirement to do any kind of business activities. Am I very clear to all? Further, can you imagine the e-commerce without website? Sir, if mobile app is available then it's okay, but the first presence of was available with what people? Website only. That is called as a web portal. That is called as what people? Web portal. And most important one in e-commerce, buying and selling of goods and services is done, but the payment we want in which form? In a digital form. So last one, it should also support with the payment gateways. Payment that help us to make the secured payment over the web. And this all are the components without which we cannot expect, even we cannot imagine also people e-commerce. The first one, user, e-commerce vendors, technological aspects. In technology we have the first one, that is a computer, server, database. Second, mobile app. chances of the mobile app separately to be asked will be there. What we want in the mobile app? So mobile app should have the 3 characteristics. I'll write it down the characteristics over here. Please make sure that you just focus over here. In mobile app, we want the 3 most important elements to be covered. Number 1, the entire mobile app must be the modular. What do you mean by the modular? It should be the department wise, means everything should be bifurcated. Example like Paytm, so we get the recharge separately, we can also get the bus booking separately, flight tickets separately, then metro card recharge separately, movie booking separately. This is what module wise. Second important aspect we want in this same one is what? That entire mobile application should always have e-payment option. They must have the e-payment option. And third one, we want customer care support. We want customer care support. If these 3 things are exist in the mobile app, then that mobile application is having the great value in the eyes of consumers. Let me give the very simple example for this. Suppose you people take a Ola ride, but because of the some issues the Ola ride doesn't get completed, but you have been charged. Now you want to ask to the company, I want my refund and this and that, I was wrongly charged or I was overcharged or anything. Then what do you generally do? If suppose the customer care support was not available in the application, then we have to start our journey from writing the one email to the company. In that you have to mention everything, that I traveled from this place to this place, in between to this only the driver denied the duty, or he asked me to cancel the ride, or there was a breakdown in the car or anything. Then this was the amount which you actually shown to me, but I had not completed, you charged me extra this and that. To write such email, it's a hectic one and nobody generally prefers also. But people nowadays, if you travel by Ola or Uber, you can go to your previous ride section and then immediately you can see there the entire customer care support is available. You can click and you can get the best customer care support. So this is the where I am marking right now, just check it out. This customer care support is the one of the very important aspects. Second, it should be supported with the e-payment also, and it should be the modular. These 3 things you have to remember for mobile app. Then obviously we had also learned the concept of digital library. Content are stored in the digital form. We had learned the concept of EDI, electronic data interchange. Without internet we can't imagine, without web we can't imagine, and the payment gateway, the most important one. That secure way of making the payment is possible only with the help of the payment gateway processes. Cleared with this? Now we'll go to the next question, please. Now the next question which appears in front of our eyes, people, they had asked the question from the cloud computing section. Let's try to first read the question carefully. ABC University wants to conduct online exams for its different courses for which a contract is given to vendor XYZ. The vendor provides computing resources such as like processing power, means they will provide the entire processing power to you, memory, storage, network, all components are there, to ABC University users to run their online exam applications on demand. So as and when you want these resources, such resources will be given to you. If you don't want, we will discontinue of providing the resources. That means it's a cloud computing question. Let's continue with the further what they are asking. Identify the service model of cloud computing. Now that the vendor XYZ is providing to ABC University, and described its characteristics also. Now to explain this concept, people, let me tell you the one thing very clear. Okay, in cloud computing services, we have the 3 layers of services. Okay, first layer of services is called as software as a service, SaaS, in which someone is going to provide me only the software function to use. Agree? Then second comes to PaaS, platform as a service. Here someone will be providing me development tools for application. Development tools for application. It means I can develop my own application here. But The top level, I'll say that there is a service called as a IaaS, infrastructure as a service. People, infrastructure as a service is generally the model of it's a model of cloud computing service in which the person is ready to provide me entire infrastructure of the IaaS. It means they will share with me the processing power, they will share with me the memory concepts, they will also share with me the data and all, they will also provide me network related services. Everything will be theirs. I am completely exempted from managing any resources in the physical form. Entire services of them, I do not require to manage anything. I do not require to manage anything. The reason being very simple. Somebody else is providing me the services. Now, processing power, memory, data, network, when anyone provides people, that kind of model is called as infrastructure as a service. Called as what, people? Infrastructure as a service. Let's take a very simple example. Okay. Now, suppose if I want to file my IT return, I can ask the one person to be there. I can appoint them, give them the salary and all and everything. But at the same time, there are the chartered accountants who says what? Sir, provide me your books of accounts. Every resources I will use of my own and I'll just provide the services to you. At both the places, keeping the one person, appointing the one person and making my IT return file, it's okay. But at the same time, when somebody is ready to provide me everything, I do not require to manage any computer, any network, any resources or anything. They will use their own resources and they are going to provide me the services of what? IT return filing. So this is what? Infrastructure as a service. Now, whenever people infrastructure as a service comes now, always remember we are going to talk about the public cloud characteristics in simple words. So now people, we have the IaaS. We are going to talk about the characteristics of IaaS, that is a infrastructure as a service. Now, as I said people, infrastructure as a service has a certain extraordinary characteristics. Like number one, it is centralized management. It operates with what? Centralized management. Everything is with the service provider. They will only provide me the memory, power, processing power, storage and everything. I am completely exempted. And when it is centrally managed, so they can have the complete control over the data also. Number two, people, we can access this service of IaaS only by using the web. So there is only web access is permitted. Clear with the same thing? So we required what? Internet connection. Why? Because user does not require to manage any hardware only, people. We do not manage any hardware. The entire service is available on the web. We can use the web related service. Example, suppose I want to host my website. Then GoDaddy says, okay, your entire website hosting, including designing, including management, including payment processes and all, everything I'll manage. You just give me the money and content for your website. Infrastructure as a service. Then it is generally, as I said, people, IaaS is the characteristics of public cloud. So it has a one more function called as elasticity, and scalability. Now what do you mean by the elasticity and scalability? Quickly we can scale up and scale down the resources which we are buying. Example, on GoDaddy, suppose I had purchased 10 TB data, but it is a situation where I additionally need data space, then I just need to inform to the GoDaddy, they will give me the additional access whatever I demand. Suppose 20 TB, additional access would be easily available. If I do not want, so I can tell them, okay, now please cancel the services of 20 TB and please allow me only 10 TB data. Quickly scale up and scale down is available. Now, in this people, IaaS, if they are not providing the services only to one, they are providing the services to many, and thereby one more characteristics is what? It is called as the shared infrastructure. It is called as what, people? Shared infrastructure, where many people comes and they stores their data. Last but not the least, the entire IaaS services is available on the basis of what you will use, and thereby it is called as a pay per use service. Means whatever you will use, you will pay only for that much resources or that much services. Example, even the IaaS architecture, if you are taken for hourly basis, you will pay only and only amount to the developer on an hourly basis and not completely. Clear with this, people? Yes, infrastructure as a service. Okay, student. Now we'll see the chapter number 5 question. What they had given. Internal control must be integrated in IT solution implemented at the bank's branches to mitigate the risk. So obviously we need internal control as well as the IT control to reduce the risk of a banking. Now state the few examples indicating the internal controls in a bank. So now they are asking what for internal control. So please make sure that you will be very clear what they had asked. They started the question with integrating an IT solution implemented, but the question they end up with what? Internal controls. So let's try to see internal control in CBS, or you can say that internal control in bank. Now first try to understand what do you mean by internal control. Internal control refers to human related controls. There is a two types of control called as internal control and second is called as the IT control. Now IT control is purely system based control where human intervention is not needed. Once you set up with a certain condition, it will execute the condition and will give the output. So obviously controls will be done automatically. But when I am saying internal control, people, it is purely human based control. So in human based control, we are having the first control. That means we should the job of a junior must be checked by the senior. So that is called as a maker checker process. Maker checker process where the job of a junior must be checked by the senior. So if the junior's job is checked by the senior, automatically it gives the benefit of what? That correct data will be only entered into the system and junior will be in a always alert position because his all jobs will be checked by the senior. So first is a maker checker process. Second point which we have, it's called as a job rotation. It's called as a job rotation. Now job rotation refers to what? That people should not be given with a permanently a one department only. I mean to say at the one branch only or at the one department also. The reason being very simple, if we do the job rotation, automatically if there is any loopholes in the system is there, we can easily come to know. Examples, when the job rotation is done, the people will not take the bribe because all time they are shifted to the some new department or to the new branch. That is one of the very important internal control. Third, people, we have internal control is that all books are to be periodically balanced. Now periodically balanced refers to what? That we will all time make sure that the debit and credit balance must matches. So there is no wrong entry of the data. So third control which we are going to apply is what? All books we will manage in such a manner that periodically we will take the confirmation whether the database is perfectly managed or not or properly managed or not. So number one, maker checker process is there. Number two, job rotation of the people from one department to another department or from one branch to another branch. Number three, all books are to be periodically balanced. Number four, suppose if you come to know that certain forms or the certain documents are missing, certain forms or certain documents are missing, then it is your responsibility to bring in the notice of the top level executives or the senior persons. So I'll write it down in a simple words. Details of lost forms must be informed to seniors. Maker checker process first one. Second, job rotation. Third, all books are to be periodically balanced. Number four, details of all lost security forms must be informed to senior officials. Fifth one, all those items by which the fraud can be easily done. Negotiable instruments are there or the FD papers are there on which the FD receipts are getting printed. So all those things by which it is very easy to conduct the fraud or those items by which the frauds are easily possible. Then all fraud prone items because of which any risk arises, such things should be kept in custody of at least two people. So all risk related items must be kept in custody of at least two officers. And the very important one, duties and responsibilities must be communicated to all employees. So it will be called as what? Proper distribution of authority and responsibility. And the person who is having the administrative power, that must be communicated to all, so the people can easily understand in the case of any confusion to whom they should ask for the clarification. Very clear to you people? So let's summarize this point in the very easy manner. Internal controls, okay. Number 1, maker checker process. Number 2, job rotation. Number 3, details, all books are to be periodically balanced. Number 4, if there is any form, securities or any document is misplaced, then it will be immediately brought into the notice of the seniors or the officials, those who are taking care of that section. 5th, all fraud prone items where the risk is there, then such risk based item must be kept in custody of at least 2 officials, so there will be a proper protection will be there. And the last but not the least people, it's called as what? Duties and responsibilities of all officers must be communicated to all the employees in the organization. This is our list of internal controls which we should apply in the organization to ensure that there is no security breaches. Am I very clear to you? Okay, let's see the last question now. Last question, what this is: money laundering is used by antisocial elements. It is used by antisocial elements to make the dirty money to be appear as a clean. We know that the money laundering is the process by which the proceeds of crime, the money which you had earned by doing the criminal activity, you are showing to the people that I had earned from the legitimate legal source, is called as what? Money laundering. Now suppose, in a simple words, I had done some crime, okay, some cash transactions I had done, and that cash transaction is obviously the illegal behavior transaction, but then later on I converted it in such a manner that it shows me that I had done this thing from the I had earned this money from the legitimate source. Then it is called as what? Money laundering. Because the truth is what? That it is a dirty money. You had done or you had earned this money by using some criminal activities or criminal motive. Then what they ask further, discuss the various stages involved in the process of money laundering. Now we know people that money laundering process is generally categorized into 3 parts. There are the 3 things are there, okay, 3 activities are there which indicates the money laundering process. Number 1 is called as placement. Number 1 is called as what? Placement. What do you mean by the placement? Placement refers to, very simple people, the source from where you had earned the money, you will take it to the far distant location so that his original identity can't be traced. That is a placement. Taking the money completely at the different location from where we had generated this black money is called as a first step, placement. Example, suppose I had done the certain crime and I got the proceeds of crime. I transfer that money, I took that money out of India to some foreign nation so that his original identity cannot be traced, that it is been money which I had or the transaction which I had done in the Indian economy. So I took this cash into the foreign country. The first step is what? Placement. So from the scene of crime, this money is taken to the some another country or another place which is less suspicious. Now second comes to the layering. Comes to what, people? Layering. Now what do you mean by the layering? It's there. Layering refers to very simple word, people. Dividing this cash, because it's a very huge amount of cash, Okay, carrying this type of cash, you will be immediately get caught. So what you will do, you will divide this money into the small trenches and transfer it to some another way, to any other activities, means investing into the like other things. Okay, so layering refers to what? First of all, placement. From the scene of crime, you take from the place from where you had generated this money, you are taking to some different location. Layering means dividing this entire cash into the small amount, so that his original identity cannot be traced. Now for this, the anti-social activists use the different methods, like they create the shell corporations, they make the transaction, they show the fake transactions over there. They always take this money to those countries where the rules and regulations are there regarding the money laundering and all. So you can do the layering over there, divide this large sum up into the small amounts. And third thing, the most important, once this layering is done, it is divided, then integrate that money into your business one more time. Okay, and that's called as an integration, bringing that black money back to you in the form of some financial or commercial transactions. Let's try to take the one simple example for this. Suppose Mr. A is there. Okay, he is doing the business of exporting something to Mr. B in Dubai. So Mr. A is in India, and Mr. B is in Dubai. Okay, now he had exported certain goods to Mr. B. Agree? Now, when the export is done, obviously the money will be received from Mr. B, yes or no? But there is a one more person who is a Mr. C. Mr. C. Now see this, very simple thing. Mr. C, okay, informed to B that you do not require to make the payment to Mr. A. I am already having with me full cash amount, I will give it to Mr. A. So Mr. C will transfer this cash to Mr. A. Mr. A already got the money. So now there is no need to receive the money from Dubai. And Mr. C will inform to Mr. B that, see that I had made the payment on behalf of you, yes or no? Mr. B say, yes, you had made the payment on behalf of me. So what should I do for you? So now Mr. B is been informed from Mr. C that transfer this money which I had given to this Mr. A. Na? So that same amount you transfer my money in Swiss bank account. So from Dubai, the money will be shifted to the Swiss bank account of Mr. C. RBI does not know about it. Here some other commercial transaction and something will be done to indicate that money is going to be received on some future date, and kind of later on showing the bad debts or anything, possibilities are brighter than bright. Now, Mr. A is also receiving the cash. Agree? First of all, you understood that this money goes to Swiss bank. That is our first funda placement. Okay. Then let's take the example of Mr. B also. Mr. B also got what? The cash. Now Mr. B will do what? Mr. B will start showing this cash as a receipts from the business activity. He will do such business, or he will show such business activity to the government, which is generally operated by using the cash. Let's take the very simple example. Mr. A has set up the one cinema. In cinema, there are the many shows in the morning which goes completely empty. But what he will do, whatever the cash he has received, now he will show that as an income from the cinema ticket selling. So his black money is automatically getting white. Again, this is the character. Again, this is the method. Now, this Mr. C, will take this example also. He is having right now the business, he had already shifted this money where? In the Dubai. Agree? Swiss bank, sorry. From there, he will do one more thing. He will set up the one business in Dubai only. Again, he will brought this money to Dubai. Okay. And this Dubai based firm will give the order to one firm in India. One more thing I will make you clear. This Dubai firm is of also Mr. C. Okay, is of Mr. C only, and this Indian firm is also of Mr. C. Now they ask for certain goods, yes or no. On the name of these goods, a very wrong amount of bill and everything will be prepared and showing it as an export. The money which he has received from this Swiss bank, now it will be given as a payment to the Indian firm which is of Mr. C only, making his black money to be appeared as earned by exporting the goods and services. This is a certain thing which I had made to you to understand this concept, how the money laundering in a general sense takes place. It's a very rough examples I had taken just to make you clear that first I'll take this money to the out of country. I'll take it to such country where the less suspicious rules and regulations are there. Second thing I'll do one more thing, it's what I'll divide that cash into the small amount. I'll start making the investment in the other activities and gradually that bring it to our own business, and that's called what? Money laundering. So in money laundering people we have the three major activities: PLI, placement, layering and then integration. Here we end up with our RDP. Thank you people.